You're listening to the StudioPTBO podcast, where we talk all things marketing to help you build and grow your business online. Welcome to the latest episode. And welcome to the StudioPTBO podcast. We are back, and we're back at it again with another guest. This is an exciting day. This is a day that we're going to talk a little bit about shipping, a little bit about electronics, and a little bit about business. So, Neil Morden, before we introduce our guest, how you doing? Life's good?
Cody, I cannot complain, sir. Life is good. I wake up every day with a good, healthy attitude, and being around you and the good people in the world helps inspire me. So yeah. And speaking of which, inspiring people, we have a renowned Canadian entrepreneur on the show today. I'll let you introduce him, Cody.
Yeah, what to say about Jim? We got actually connected on a talk show through. So I reached out originally after we did a talk show together. We were probably on a talk show for about an hour. Jim is the CEO of Danby Electronics and also the CEO of ShipperBee. And Jim, it's such a pleasure to have you on our show to chat a little bit deeper about marketing, mindset, knowledge. And just, really excited to hear kind of what you have to say around business, and because you've done a lot in business and philanthropy. So why don't you give us kind of a high level overview on who you are, what you do, kind of the Spark Notes version of how Jim got to where he is today.
Sure. So I was an engineer just graduating from university. I needed a computer, got a better deal if I bought two of them. So I bought two and sold one. And then someone wanted a printer. Then someone wanted some memory and some disk drives and another computer. So next thing you know, I'm buying and selling computer hardware, software, peripherals. And I built that business to a couple billion in sales. And then I retired. I moved to New York for 5 years. My dad got sick, so I moved back to Guelph. And I sat on the board of Danby Appliances. And the CEO resigned, and I said, I can go in and run that. Danby Appliances does about 400 million in sales. So we make maybe 2 million appliances a year. So it's kind of in my size range, and it happens to be in Guelph. And that's pretty well the story. Along the way, I invested in a lot of businesses, and I coached and mentored and was on boards. And the most famous one was BlackBerry. So I was one of the founding directors of BlackBerry. That would be another claim to fame. But best if you just ask me questions about anything.
For sure. I want to go back. I want to go back, Jim, to where it really started, and that's with Jim's painting.
Oh, you want to go way, way back?
I want to go way old school here because I watched, did a lot of research on you, as I do all our guests, and you talked about two of the fundamentals you learned there in starting that business, and I'll sort of let you walk our listeners, our viewers through that. But give us the lens of starting Jim's painting and what you learned about customer service and being punctual and all the good things.
So I was growing up in Woodstock, Ontario, and my dad asked me to help him paint the house, and I painted the house. A neighbor asked if I could paint their fence, and next thing you know, I was making money painting houses. And interesting thing, at that time, I was in high school. I was too young to drive, so I couldn't buy the first truck I bought before I was old enough to have my license to move ladders and stuff like that. I hired all my friends, my brothers, to help me paint. I just go on my bicycle, see a house that needed painting, go put a little flyer in the door saying, I'll paint your house for $500 or whatever, and then I go and paint the houses. And as far as why I thought I was a success is I would show up when I said I was going to show up, and I was polite. So when I went into someone's house, I took my shoes off. I would actually clean up any garbage that was in the person's hedge if you're painting outside the house. And I would do just those little things which weren't necessarily typical of my competitors in that time. So it was mostly the really simple, show up on time, be polite, and do what you say you're going to do. And that's pretty well a good fundamental in most businesses.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I find it a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners that we work with, they really... we talk a lot about key fundamentals, key mindset. So I'm really curious to know, really early on in business, what were 3 tactics that really, I guess, shaped, you to get you to the point where you like you wanted to start serving on boards, and what, like, you know, what, like, was it a growing up, like, what was it about growing up that kind of got you to where you are today? Is there any like key elements, key fundamentals that you learned along the way that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, I talked about the one fundamental is just do what you say you're going to do, be polite, show up. I also had very high work ethic. So I would work. The other thing I learned is fail often, fail fast, fail cheap. So I would do things. I remember when I opened my computer business, going to my first office. Before that, it was all out of the trunk of my car. To go to the first office, and I went and dropped flyers, and everybody in the neighborhood said we're having a grand opening. And I don't remember how many donuts we bought, but gross 144 donuts, and 3 people showed up. So it's like fail often, fail fast, fail cheap. And of course, back then I'm a poor student, so I ended up eating 144 donuts over the next month. But I mean, really, it's just trying things and do more of what works and less of what doesn't work. That's what I learned.
Yeah. So, and where did your ethos, I'm curious, because this applies to Danby and sort of how you lived your life of doing the right thing. Was that instilled from you at a young age from your parents, or from observation, or from reading? But it's really a motto you seem to have followed in the trajectory of your career and life, and sort of walk us through where that came from, what the blueprint was for that, and the foundation, and, you know, how it's really motivated you and inspired you throughout your life and your employees.
Well, the interesting thing is when I first started saying the do the right thing, it wasn't the way it's taken now. So today it's Danby, and you go to the front door, it says right above the front door, do the right thing. And it's on our business cards. It's our tagline, do the right thing. I originally started it because I wanted to scale a business. And I thought, well, can you have a user's manual that says in this situation, do that? Or how do you treat your coworkers? How do you treat your suppliers? How do you treat your customers? You know, do you ship product that doesn't work? You know, do you help people? Whatever. And so I just said, do the right thing, because I couldn't possibly have every eventuality. And then it became sort of the mantra. And then when I started doing some of the philanthropic stuff, then it became more associated with that, which I'm perfectly fine with. It's not just philanthropy, and it's an easy way to make decisions even in business. Now, sometimes people try to turn it around on you and say, yeah, I bought this refrigerator 10 years ago at a garage sale, and I want you to replace it under warranty. And it's like, okay, what is the right thing? I mean, no, I don't think that's the right thing. You know, it's
Yeah, and let's go deeper, because you did mention philanthropy now, and sort of the foundation of that, and how you really became known. And again, it's always been instilled in you. You've always given back to the community in Guelph and beyond. Was through the humanitarian crisis that happened, the Syrian refugee crisis. You spent $1.5 million of your own money to help bring, I think, 80 some odd families here. And your story ended up going viral around the world. And that's not the important part. The important part is what you did for these families. Walk us through that. And also, not just that you sort of provided them with money and handed over the keys to them, but, you know, another one of your mottos sort of is, you know, teach a person to fish rather than just give them fish. So that was a foundation. So walk us through that, how that happened with helping the Syrian families in Guelph.
Well, I mean, I could see the crisis that was happening, and I didn't think government was doing anything fast enough. I learned there's a private refugee sponsorship that we could sponsor refugees. So we sponsored refugees, but it's not only about the money, it's mostly about the settlement. And in that project, you're helping people through a hard time, not trying to support them forever. It's not like I've given a lot to homeless causes and stuff like that, but homeless causes are never ending. It's not where this Syrian crisis was. It's still ongoing. For what it's worth, I'm still sponsoring refugees, but COVID has stopped all of the refugees coming in right now. But we had to set up a whole process. So every family that comes in has 4 or 5 mentor families, and they have checklists, things like set up a bank account, find a doctor, find a dentist, test for English as a second language, register the kids for school, find an apartment, move into the apartments, furnish the apartment, all that kind of stuff. So there's checklists and scorecards. So the volunteer organization is kind of run like a business.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know, and like I kind of want to shift gears a little bit and like really kind of delve into like how you were able to kind of revitalize Danby as a company, and like, you know, the innovation. And I'm just like, I'm curious around like the scaling process. Like what was, like specifically because like you say it was run like a business, there were systems, there was processes, and I find that a lot of entrepreneurs that we chat with on a regular basis, they're constantly building their business based around referrals. But when you're trying to scale a larger company, obviously we know there needs to be systems and processes. I guess like along the way, like what were like 2-3 key tactics you learned about systems and processes to go from, because a lot of business owners will never hit 8 figures, let alone 7 figures. So like what were some of the key the key learning items, the key tactics that you learned from 7 figures to 8 figures to 8 figures and beyond?
Well, the obvious thing is you can't do everything. So I would love to do everything, but I can't do everything. So I'd love to say we hire only above average people, but in reality, we hire average people and make them above average by having good systems, process, training, coaching training, mentoring, and slotting people in the right position. So I am big on process, but I'm big on continuous learning and trying to refine to make it better and better and better. Mm-hmm. So that's more or less what I do is, just try build a business that's scalable. The other thing I learned actually is when you're doing 10 million in sales, I look at people doing 50 million in sales. And when I was doing 50, I look at people doing 100. When I was doing 100, I look at people doing 500. I was looking at 500 to look at people doing 1 billion. And I learned that to go from one level to another, mostly it was about what I give up. It's not about what I do, because that's the way to scale. If I keep doing it all, it's not long-term scalable. Now, right now, I'm diving deep into one of my areas of my company. I dive in deep, and I actually do, so I understand what needs to be done, and I work along with everybody to try to make it better. But at the same time, I'm thinking, what's the process? How do we change this? How do we make it better? How do we make it faster? How do we save money? How do we make it better for the customers? And then my hope is I will slowly ease out of that area, and the processes that were put in place will, I'm not going to say stick, because they will stick, but I'm hoping that the thought process also sticks to say, oh, if Jim was here, he wouldn't put up with this speed or slowness or whatever. What would he be doing? How would he be getting IT to solve it? Or I have no idea, whatever. So, I've had to completely reset people's mindset around speed. And so that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, and you're trying to leave a legacy and a framework, right, for when you do go into retirement again. You're saying, which is really important to the foundation. And speaking of when you retire again, when and if, what did you go through in that 5-year phase when you did retire and you went to New York? Because I always, Cody and I interview entrepreneurs from around the world, and they just seem to be wired to always be doing things and starting new companies or this or that. So what did 5 years of retirement look like for Jim in New York?
So when I was retired, I was doing angel capital, and I sat on a lot of boards and whatnot. Cody asked earlier, when did I decide I want to be on boards, stuff like that. I had business success first. Then I was asked to join a board, and then I was asked to join another board, and then I had an opportunity to invest in a startup company. And so it more or less became, as I was successful, I had the opportunities to do that. And as I was successful, I made money, which meant I could invest. When I started, I had no money. And the same thing is with being on a board. So in New York, I was on boards. I do some consulting. I did a lot of angel investing. What I learned is I don't like not operating a business. You always think you start a business, you grow to a certain size, you sell for a lot of money, and then you retire. And then I found, well, yeah, what do I want to be? Am I the maintenance man? I'm the lawnskeeper here. Like, really, is that what I choose to do? It's not what I wanted to do. So when I had this opportunity to run Danby Appliances, I was thrilled because, and actually what happened is I started running it, and I said, oh, I like running this. I'll run that. This will be my next decade gig. And then the ownership group came and said, oh, we want to sell the business. I said, oh, no, how much do you want to sell it for? And then they told me, I said, okay, fine, I'll take it. So I bought the business. That was after running it for a year, because I had in my mind that was my next decade plan. Yeah. While I was in New York, I was also doing, it was a lot of around startups. And I learned, for me, I couldn't get the scalability. I could save 10% of the company's expenses, and that would be $20,000. I could double their sales, and then they'd be $250,000 or $1 million or whatever. At Danby, we save if we increase our margin by 1%, that's $4 million. If we decrease our expenses by 2%, that could be $8 million. Increase our sales by 20%, that's $80 million. So that's scalability. And the other thing I say is, I don't actually do anything. I've got a lot of people who do everything. And so I found in the startup world, I actually had to do things, and I actually like having people that do things. So now I just have the idea, let's, I don't know, let's rent a new building and do a bunch of renovations on it and stuff like that. I think we should put this window in here and do this and that. And then I come back a month later, it's done. I didn't do it. I didn't have to do anything on it. I just show up.
That's been a massive epiphany for us over the last, I would say probably 6 to 8 months, is begin to automate, delegate, and remove all non-needle-moving activities to hand them off to people that on your team that you can trust. And I'm curious because growing companies, growing businesses, whether you're 6 figures, we have a lot of businesses that are probably doing 6 figures, 7 figures. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on hiring? I know you say that, obviously, you mentioned that you hire average people and you make them great. What does that process look like at Danby? And what does a good hiring process look like to you? Give us a few tactics that you do whenever you're hiring somebody, because there's so many different ideas on good hiring. Some people say hire fast, fire fast. Some people say hire slow, fire fast. I'm just curious on what your thoughts are on somebody that has actually scaled businesses, your thoughts, your processes on hiring.
So I'd like to say we only hire A players, and that is hiring slow. So I like to interview and then re-interview and have multiple people interview with multiple perspectives and check 18 references, not check 1 reference. And then I also like to hire for character. I don't believe you can teach character. I believe we can teach skills. So I'm even okay taking someone who's in a slightly different industry. If they are fundamentally fairly intelligent, have high work ethic, have high integrity. So the skills can be taught. The character cannot be taught is my philosophy. And then you need to put the systems process around them to allow them to succeed. I also am a big believer in servant leadership. Our job is to help people succeed. So when we hire someone, our job is to ramp them, help them succeed. And it's much more of a team approach rather than saying we're going to, and we do fire slowly because I'm soft and because you have to work with people, right?
Yeah. Jim, I'm curious. I've read articles about you. Toronto Life did a profile on you, I think in 2016. It was a great profile, but structure is a big part of your life, as it is for any entrepreneur, and habits and positive habits. You had said in that article, you don't have a TV. I don't know if you do now, but you still don't. So interesting. You're a voracious reader, love to garden, love to exercise. Walk us through the habits and whether you've always had those and what that means to be an entrepreneur, that structure and discipline.
So what a habit does is a habit means you don't have to have willpower. You don't have to have any willpower to brush your teeth. You're in the habit of brushing your teeth. It's easy. So I really think through my habits, and habits multiply a lot over the years. One thing I said in my tech talk, if you eat 10 more calories a day, which is a hard candy, you gain 1 pound a year. If you walk an extra mile, you lose a pound a year. It's all the little things, they multiply over time. And because I'm old, I actually see that. So when I go back to a school reunion, I can tell which of my classmates sat on their couch drinking beer and eating potato chips, and which of my classmates went to the gym. It just so much multiplies over the decades. So I'm a big believer in habits, and around marketing, I have a lot of habits and had a lot of habits because that's how you keep in touch. What marketing is keeping in touch with multiple people or selling to multiple people at the same time. Multiplying your sales effort is what I look at it. So for instance, I've got 20,000 LinkedIn connections, and I send a quote, usually a quote from a famous person, and then when this podcast goes live, you're going to send me the link, and I'll put it out on my LinkedIn, and so everything sort of is synergistic. Some of those people watch it, and those people are my customers. It's just low level keeping in touch with people. And before there was LinkedIn in a big way and whatnot, I did it manually, and I just developed systems and process around that.
Back to just quickly, no TV. I want you to explain that one because you don't run into many people these days that don't watch TV. And books. What kind of books do you read? Are you just walk us through those two?
So I just believe television is North America's biggest time waster, and so that also goes with willpower. The reason I eat reasonably well is there is no cookies in the cupboard. There is no cake in the fridge. So I eat more healthy. The same thing is true of television. I don't waste any time on television because I have no television. I do have a computer though. You can see that, and computers can be the same waste of time. As far as reading goes, I mostly read, believe it or not, marketing books, business books, leadership books. I like success stories. And really, I do it for entertainment. I do it to stimulate my thoughts. It's where I get ideas. The key is to read and filter. So just because an author says something doesn't mean that they are right. It just it gives me one point of view. And I listen to a lot as well as read, because I can listen. That's using a time management trick called the power of while. What can you do while you're walking? What can you do while you're driving? Of course, we're not driving much in pandemic, but I even my 10-minute drive to and from work over a week, that's over an hour of that's 2 hours of listening time, which would get me through an audiobook or a podcast easily.
I love how the marketing conversation came up because I'm really curious because you chat a lot about LinkedIn. I'm curious kind of your mindset on other social platforms. I read something, as we were kind of researching about you haven't really dived too much deep into Instagram, but I'm curious, obviously we see you from a thought leader perspective. You have LinkedIn, you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, but I'm curious kind of what the marketing strategy is for ShipperBee specifically, because it's a little bit of a different company. And then what's the marketing strategy for Danby? Was there a marketing strategy, or is it more of a referral type partnership, strategic partnership? Because, and the reason I asked that is because I spent 10 years at Best Buy, so we carried your product. Very familiar with the appliances. So I'm just curious, was there a marketing strategy or was it more of a strategic partnership strategy to scale these companies?
I mean, everything blends together. Is it marketing, or is it strategic partnership, or is it salesmanship, or is it product? Is it pricing? Is it service? What are the various things? They all work together. ShipperBee and Danby are very, very different. ShipperBee is a courier. And so your customer is any business who's shipping products. It's business to consumer, business to business, any .com company. And so the approach to that tends to be a PR approach to marketing. So you want to get in the paper, you want to get on television, you want to get on the radio, except at the same time, because that's a relative startup, you need to match your capacity with your sales, because it wouldn't help if we went out tomorrow and sold 100,000 parcels a day and then we fall flat in our face, because when you start in a startup, you need to have 5-star reviews. So we need to have perfect execution when we start delivering parcels, because then you're going to say, oh, use this ShipperBee company, it's great. And the angle for ShipperBee is also it's an environmental play. So we save 73.1% of the greenhouse gas per parcel shipped. The parcel industry is growing rapidly. UPS just announced their results, and they were up, 20% or something like that. And but the shipping volume is up. Everyone's buying everything online, and there's not enough capacity, so there's lots of space for a new player. Danby's strategy is different because Danby tends to sell through repeat customers, and we sell through multiple channels. But we're selling to Bob's Appliance Store, and we're selling to Costco and Best Buy and Lowe's and Home Depot and Walmart.com and Amazon, as well as Hotel Supply and direct to Marriott. And so we're selling to multiple channels, but it tends to be very repeat buyers. We don't sell very much direct. We sell some parts, of course, because I can't expect retail dealers to have every air conditioner hose in stock and stuff like that. But
and how would you say, because I think I really believe that entrepreneurs don't really have, like many entrepreneurs don't have a referral strategy. Like how have you been able as a company to maximize that referral strategy? Because obviously, like when you're going direct to consumer, you can run ads and you can do all these different things, but like how have you been able to scale the relationships to get more people to refer you or to create more strategic partnerships? Maybe walk us through the strategy around referrals or the strategy around strategic partnerships.
So the easiest thing to do on referrals is when you make a sales call, say, is there anyone else that you know of that would be interested in this? One of the reasons I like LinkedIn is if you happen to be an appliance sales rep working for Best Buy, then you often will be an appliance sales rep who switches and works for TA Appliances. So you often stay in the same field, and LinkedIn keeps you in touch with people, and you rub off onto other people because you have your network. I also believe by serving my network, then you will serve. Then the network serves me.
Yeah.
Like I believe that you will have a brother that wants to buy a freezer, and you say, "Oh, I wonder if Jim wants to sell a freezer." And next thing you know, I get a referral, even though I'm not doing this so that you refer your brother. It just naturally happens when you're out there. That's part of what marketing is
organic.
about.
Super organic, kind of like how you two met on a podcast or on that talk show, right?
Well, exactly. So we met on a talk show, and then I think I reached out on LinkedIn because that's what I do to everybody that I meet. I just, good meeting you on the panel. And Cody reaches out and says, "Oh yeah, good meeting you. And oh, by the way, I do this other show. Do you want to be on this show?" Yeah. And so, in a way, that's a referral from a referral, right?
100% it is. 100%. It's a beautiful way, that networking ecosystem. I know we have to finish up here, so Cody, but another topic I wanted to cover with you. You've talked a lot about the sense of urgency wins as opposed to trying to be perfect. And a lot of entrepreneurs, one of their stumbling blocks, perhaps early on, is just overthinking things and not doing. Share your ethos on that and why the sense of urgency wins is a sort of another motto of yours.
Well, more people fail from perfection than fail from speed. And if you consider speed to be the opposite of perfection, then you will think of things differently. Also, people are actually tremendously forgiving if you're fast. I mean, I think of it in customer service. I could sell you a wine cooler and it doesn't work. You're upset. If I fix it fast, you actually tell all your friends, "I can't believe it. I bought this wine cooler, but you don't go and say to everybody, "I bought this wine cooler, it doesn't work." Speed cures a lot of things. So it's just the perfection speed balance. And you're right about entrepreneurs. My advice to entrepreneurs is just do it. While other people are doing sitting back and thinking and making plans, then I've already implemented, and then they wonder what happened.
Yeah, execution. Ideas are one thing, but execution's everything. Jim, I feel like we just got so much value out today, and I just appreciate your time more than anything. It's great to sit down and chat today, especially fellow Canadians. We were with a bunch of Americans last time, and now fellow Canadians here talking, marketing, mindset, business. If somebody were to want to reach out to you personally, or if they would want to learn more about Danby or ShipperBee, I guess, what's the best way somebody can reach you directly?
So I have this little test for people. If they can't find my email address, they probably don't deserve to reach out to me. But like I said, I'm on LinkedIn, and the name of the company is Danby Appliances. I would hope that you can Google that, and ShipperBee, which I hope you can Google. As Neil pointed out, I am reasonably public, so you can find a lot of about me or what I do in Google. The other thing I will say, as a polite Canadian, I do tend to respond, which, if someone reaches out on LinkedIn, I often will connect, especially if they say they heard me on the show, because it's just the polite Canadian thing to do.
Well, they will hear you on the show because it will go viral.
You're promising a lot. It's like this is customer service. Under promise, over deliver. Come on.
That's right.
Jim, thank you so much for your time today. It was great to kind of chat today again. And Neil, hope you have a great day as well. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into another episode of the Studio PTBO podcast. You're a business owner, entrepreneur looking to grow. We're inside of the Studio PTBO Marketing Hacks group. So just search it, like Jim says, just search it on Facebook and or search it on Google, and it'll pop up, and get yourself inside of there. You're a business owner, entrepreneur. Jim, thank you once again. Neil, have a great day. And thank you for tuning into the Studio PTBO podcast. We will see you soon.